Four Knights of the Apocalypse chapter 223 is officially out, and this chapter is all about Bond, which we all absolutely love. And we get the conversation between Bond and Guinevere now that they've officially met at the end of the previous chapter. We get some nice remarks, we get some really awesome action sequences, and a reminder of just how OP Bond really is in comparison to a lot of other characters in this moment. And we revisit the future vision that Guinevere had that seemed to look like that Bond was going to die. And we'll jump right into everything in this chapter in just a second, but before we get right into it, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for updates on future videos. Really helps and it shows you guys enjoy the content I make here on the channel and shows you want to see more. And also don't forget to hype the video as well to help boost it in the algorithm. Really helps a lot, and more people will view it. And if you haven't already, go and check out my second channel, GW Comics, where I talk about comic books. I got a couple of other discussion and review videos for that planned out to come out slowly throughout the year. Again, passion project. I'll really appreciate if you guys go check it out. Links will be in the description down below and in the title card that will pop up around here. Now then, let's get started and jump right into the chapter. Chapter 223 of Four Knights of the Apocalypse, titled, What I Wish to Protect. And the first page is just two panels of basically the tertiary cast and extended side characters helping to protect and evacuate the citizens in Leonis and Camelot that were sent to Leonis. Which, nice. That's kind of what I figured they were going to be doing, and it is obvious that they're basically keeping damage to a minimum and helping to guide citizens in specific parts of Leonis out of here as this big fight is happening. But the chapter really starts with Bond and Guinevere, as Bond asks Guinevere if she knows his son, as at the end of the last chapter, she basically called Bond Lance's dad, which is kind of funny. And so Guinevere is, after hearing this, kind of fidgeting and kind of trying to explain what her and her relationship with Lancelot kind of is and how it's kind of complicated. She can't really express it in this way, basically amounting to her saying that Lance can never be replaced for her, but Bond just starts laughing it up and ends up saying, don't worry about me. Guess it's only natural my son and I share similar tastes. Wait till I tell the gang about this. Knock about you're making this show worse, my dude. Well, he's gotta be doing this on purpose. He has to know what he's having Bond say in this instance. You know what, whatever. I would expect Bond to just kind of be okay with things. He's a very lax person. Let's move on. I don't want to. But yeah, Bond sees that his son kind of has someone looking out for him that cares about him, and ends up saying, be good to Lance for me. He might seem cold and distant at first, but he's a good kid deep down. He's my son after all. As Guinevere says she's well aware of that, and ends up telling Bond, as she's imagining Lance, saying, he has meant everything to my life, and he'll continue to well into the future. No matter how deep in the dark I am, he stands there like a moonbeam lighting the way. Honestly, pretty nice comparison, especially with a lot of stuff with Lance's magic being Hazy Moon, and a lot of tarot card comparisons to a bunch of characters in the series, Lance representing the moon. A friend of mine on Twitter, Ray, has made a bunch of posts equating characters to the tarot cards and how it perfectly exemplifies their characters and their abilities, which is actually pretty interesting to see. I gotta check on him on that at some point, because that actually seems like a fun video to do. But after saying this, Bond kind of says, well, that's good, but then he thinks for a moment and wonders how Guinevere knew that he was Lancelot's father in the first place, since it's the first time they've met. Obviously, you can equate to the fact that Lance just looks like a younger Bond, but Guinevere is kind of stumped by this, as she then flashes back to the future vision that we saw at the start of the time skip in chapter 128, but from a different perspective, a different angle. As we see the person with that bloody spear that had seemed to have stabbed Bond and killed him, laying him on the ground, was Lancelot. And Lancelot saying, Dad. And my god, is this an insane panel? Because, wow, that is a crazy thing to see. Now, remembering this, Guinevere thinks about her ability Kaleidoscope and how she's had this dream, this dark future of Lancelot killing his own father, happen to her multiple times. She's seen it so many different times, and she wonders what happened for this to be the case. And she wants to change it. She has to tell Bond right now about this future, But if she changes the future, she will pay a deep price for this. But here's the thing, I made an entire video on, like, Guinevere's future visions kind of set us on the path to, like, you know, Percival dying and all this stuff. The future that Guinevere has said has changed before. However, there could be some key differences from the vision that we saw previously and now, one of which being Meliodas in flames and a bunch of civilians and knights just dead on the ground. There's also signs of Kath wearing Arthur's iconic gold-plated armor as per usual, which he's not wearing in this chapter. He's wearing his usual kingly attire. But there's also the fact that his hilt almost looks like Excalibur, so he doesn't have that, which means things are definitely different from the initial vision that Guinevere had. Either way, we could be getting a different version. Perhaps Bon isn't the one that dies, and with how things are going off with the Four Knights now in Camelot trying to find Merlin now, which, like I said in that video, things with Merlin could have been entirely different if not for Guinevere having the future change thanks to Kath trying to stop them in Walneck. But there's a lot of different things and factors that we can get. I do think someone's going to die. I just don't think it's Bon this time, which would be interesting. But still, we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, Guinevere is contemplating on telling Bon about the future where his own son kills him for some reason, but Bon notices that she's gone all pale and is wondering if she's okay. Guinevere says that she's fine, she'll be able to get out of here on her own without his help so he can focus on the fight. Now, while Bon is having this conversation with Guinevere, he's kind of looking over to kind of see all the, chaos going around in the kingdom, but Guinevere calls out to Bon and asks him something, asking if he loves Lancelot, with Guinevere just basically saying that she is such a coward, not really saying what she needs to say. Bon looks back and says, hey, if it's for his sake, I'm ready to die anytime. Now that's kind of how any parent would be towards their child if it meant them, growing up, being safe, following their dreams, etc. But this also implies that Bon can kind of tell that Guinevere is trying to tell him something, that he could end up dying or something like that. Which Bon definitely picked up on in some way, shape, or form. Maybe not the way that we think. Still, interesting line to go about that, but it's also Bon's way of saying, I love my son to death, I will do anything to protect him. Which is great. We then cut to Gowther, King in the End, kind of getting pushed back by the perils, with Bon just nonchalantly saying, man, what are they even doing over there? As he heads over to go and help the rest of the Sins, telling Guinevere that at some point that she should visit his forest sometime, patting her on the head as he disappears. And Guinevere begins to cry uncontrollably at the situation, basically asking if Lancelot even knows how much he's loved. This is something I'm kind of interested in, because we all know how Lance's personality tends to be. I do think he knows how people care about him. He can read minds in people's hearts, obviously. But even still, this is something weird. Perhaps Lancelot doesn't... Maybe Lancelot has a similar way with things like Gawain in an aspect and not truly understanding if people truly love him in specific ways, or even can feel that. That might be what Guinevere is implying here, because what could this mean? I'm legitimately not sure what this can mean. It could be something so obvious that I am obviously missing, but still, that's a weird way to phrase things. But this could have something to do with this alternate or potential future where Lancelot kills Bon for all we know. Again, with things turning out differently from the future that we're currently in. There is actually something that happens in this chapter that is also something else that is different from the future that we saw with Guinevere. Bon shows up to back up the rest of the Sins, other than Meliodas fighting Kath, basically kind of, poking fun at them, saying if they've gotten soft over peacetime and whatever. But obviously they're kind of ticked off, with Gowther just playfully going along with, maybe I have gotten rusty. But obviously King and the Yan are talking about how they've just been protecting the citizens this entire time. They can't really fight all out, especially the Yan. She is enormous. And King has a lot of AoE attacks, so we can't really go all out until the citizens are all completely clear. Plus, there's a bunch of chaos power that they aren't sure how to handle at this moment. But Bon chuckles and gets his sacred treasure ready. I am not going to pronounce the name of Bon's sacred treasure, because for some reason I stutter every single time I try to say it. But all four perils are getting ready to unleash all of their attacks on Bon, and Bon instantly uses his sacred treasure to attack all of them and launch up into the air, as he then unleashes Fox Hunt to push all of them together, smashing them into a cluster, shocking the Sins at how fast Bon is being right now, with Bon saying, "Okay, I know it's broad daylight, but how about a little fireworks show?" As he then uses Banishing Kill to completely destroy all four perils in a singular instance, ripping them to shreds with his sacred treasure at massively faster than light speeds. As they literally disintegrate and just turn into a giant rain of blood. Like, that is just insane. Bon was so fast and strong that he just literally shredded them all up into just a rain cloud of blood. Now, Deanne's saying that is way too overkill for them right now, but Gother says this isn't good, they'll just regenerate. And he obviously told the rest of the Sins about what happened in Camelot, as even King says that they're not normal anymore. The twisted magic that's within them now will just amplify itself like never before, as now the disintegrated, destroyed parts of them are coming back together and reforming, as all four perils regenerate and go into their fully chaos forms, as they all lunge towards Bon 4v1. As everyone's concerned for Bon, a massive eruption of what I can only assume is a combo spell for all four perils launched right at Bon. In a massive 2-page spread as we see this crackling blast right at Bon point blank. And as the explosion dissipates, Kath begins to gloat, saying that, well, I guess I should have expected that from my other halves. They've eliminated one of the legends for me. Okay, so Kath says that the four perils are his other halves. This could imply that he literally either split his power, or it's literally just other versions of himself, just without ego, amplifying them, and it is a part of them. Kath is chaos, so that makes sense. Still, it will be interesting if this is a Demon King situation where the power in the four perils, even if it's not a lot, has been split amongst the perils, and Kath isn't even fighting at full strength for all we know. Either way, Kath is instantly proven wrong and is shocked at what's going on, as King goes on to say, "You guys don't get it at all, do you? You don't see who you're up against. For his beloved, he gained eternal life, then threw it away. For his friends, he spent a millennia in purgatory, that burning, freezing, rotting place. Not even the king of the demons could crush him. Right now, he possesses the strongest body and spirit in the world, as this magic just basically does nothing to Bon, as he grins, saying none of you can kill me." And as the four perils are floating in the air, the final page of the chapter is Bon instantly behind them, as he just decapitates all of them, finishing the chapter by saying, "The only one who can kill me is my son after all." And that's where the chapter ends. Also, there's another change from the future vision. When Lancelot killed Bon, he was wearing his coat. In this one, he doesn't have his coat, so key difference there. It could just be like a one-off thing, or continuity error, or just a slight differentiation, but it's enough to point out that Bon isn't going to die. But yeah, that's the end of the chapter, and we all knew from Seven Deadly Sins, and even now, Bon is the favorite of Nakaba Suzuki. He is the favorite character created from the series. Bon has had the most development, the hypest fights, the biggest emotions, a lot of emotional beats. He's had just a lot of stuff going on in the series, and has probably the second most focus outside of Meliodas in the entirety of the entire franchise. And in this chapter alone, he 1v4s the four perils that gave the Four Knights of the Apocalypse trouble. Now granted, we saw Lancelot 1v4 to these guys pretty effortlessly, but this is just Bon. And this kind of confirms something, that he is probably the strongest Sin at this point. They say strongest body and strongest spirit. Now, I hate going into the power level thing that we had in Seven Deadly Sins for like, I don't know, 2-3 arcs or so, like a few hundred chapters, then we just dropped it. Spirit, magic, and power, physical power, are the separations of what makes up someone's total overall power level. Bon's got the strongest spirit and power, which is crazy, because, like, yeah, he's been through a lot. He's strengthened his spirit and resolve and his mental fortitude, so that alone is strong enough. But he's also got a body that's resisted almost every single biome and just hazardous area to begin with. So it would take a lot, and I mean a lot, to kill this man. A sacred treasure, perhaps, with the strength of someone equally, if not stronger than him. like Lancelot. The Four Perils are strong, but their attacks basically don't do much to Ban, because he's resisted such strong things in the past and fought a literal god 1v1. So, Ban the Strongest Sin, practically confirmed. I still want to give a bit more of an edge to Meliodas due to, you know, all the shit he's gone through over the years as well. But if you want to say Ban at this point is the Strongest Sin, and it's basically being confirmed by other characters in the series, I wouldn't blame you. I can make an entirely different video if you want on trying to quantify Ban's overall power at some point, probably after this arc ends, depending on if he lives or dies. I strongly believe he's going to survive this, but that brings up another situation. If Ban ends up surviving, will anyone die? Or will all the Sins die and not just him? Or, what I'm thinking, maybe Meliodas could die, because for all we know, the interference in the past could have just led to a different course of the future where Meliodas is the one that dies instead of Ban. Granted, we lose one major powerhouse, but we still have what could be the strongest character in the series still active, so that's a thing. Still, the future is still not set in stone. It's definitely different from what we have seen, but we still have no idea how things have changed, or even if it's changed. Other than that, I like the conversation between Ban and Guinevere, outside of that one comment about the similar taste between father and son or whatever. That's kind of weird. I feel like Nakaba's making these comments on purpose just to get a rise out of people, for all I know. Still though, Ban's a good guy, he's a good dad. He's literally willing to die for his kid, and even says that the only person that could kill him is his son, which kind of twists the knife a bit with us knowing that there's a future version of Lancelot that has killed Ban around this segment of time right now. So, yeah. Guinevere's comments are weird, in the sense of Lancelot not knowing how much he's loved. Maybe Lancelot just doesn't fully grasp how much people care about him. He knows people care about him, but maybe he just doesn't fully grasp it in his heart of hearts. And maybe that's why the future where he killed his dad is so devastating, and why we don't see his eyes after this. Things could still be relatively vague for all we know. And Guinevere's worry of the future changing by saying things are going to change and it coming back to bite her is definitely a valid concern, but again, nothing truly devastating has happened to our heroes yet, outside of what happened to Percival, but he came back and they're stronger than ever, so that is something to consider. We haven't really hit the dark timeline at this point. Yeah, things were difficult for 2 years and Percival was dead, but there's still some things to really consider when it comes to all that stuff. Either way, fun chapter. I enjoyed it. Ban being the strongest there is at this point makes sense, and I'm all here for Ban doing just absolutely anything to humiliate all the enemies at this point. But you guys let me know in the comment section down below what you felt about this chapter, the potential future going on, and how do you feel about Ban basically being confirmed to be the strongest Sin at this point. Let me know in the comment section down below. And what's more, if you haven't already, like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for updates on future videos. Really helps, and it shows you guys enjoy the content I make here on this channel, and shows you want to see more. And with all that said and done, hope you all have an awesome day.